Today is the 3rd of August, 2016. This video comes to you today in two parts. Part 1, your punishment. Abe, you owe punishment. I've decided to take punishment and not as something that you would hate to do, but more as something that I want you to do that you wouldn't do without me forcing you to under these circumstances. So, your punishment is this. In the doobly-doo are links to 4 different booktubers, aka YouTubers, who talk about books. You have to choose one of them, watch a full year of their videos, and then you have to do a video in their style. The specifics are up to you. The booktubers I'm linking are Poland Bananas Books, Catty-tastic, Jessie the Reader, and Ariel Bissett. Part 2, The Strange Thing About Stranger Things. Stranger Things is a Netflix show. It's set in the 1980s in a small town about a boy who goes missing, and his friends and his mom and the head cop guy, I think he's maybe a sheriff, who are trying to figure out why he's disappeared through magical means. That is to say, he disappeared through magical means, not that they're trying to figure him out through magical means. There's also a little girl who appears, and she has telepathic abilities, and everything is very spooky. And there's a vague yet menacing government agency, and it's great. It's a really good show. You should watch it. But I don't actually want to talk to you about, the show itself, because the show itself is good, but it's also kind of it's good. You should watch it. There's not much else I can say. What I actually want to talk to you about is the recontextualization of my life and childhood that this show has brought on. Because it's set in the 80s, but it's set in a very weighty and real 1980s. Especially in terms of, the set design and the props. It all has that sort of datedness to it, but not to, the ridiculous extreme, Nobody's got face paint on their face or, crazy teased hair. It's all just sort of everyday life that happens. What's weird is that I keep seeing bits of my childhood in it. Now, I was never alive in the 80s. The 1980s had been over for 6 years by the time I came into existence. But so much of the detritus of that time spilled over into my late 90s and early 2000s childhood that I didn't even recognize were from a time period, let alone from the 80s. And it wasn't until watching this show that all of this sort of started falling into temporal place. So, for example, there's a sleeping bag that the mysterious little girl sleeps in temporarily. It's yellow, it's kind of shiny. And I saw it, and I recognized it as exactly the same sleeping bag that my dad had when I was a kid, only his was blue. But, I could feel it. I could look at the thing, and I could feel the texture of the cloth. Or, the lamps, their lights are a very prominent thing in the show, particularly for the missing kid's mom. And she gathers up all these lamps, and they had these awful sort of wickerish lampshades that were, crenellated. They were, if you take a piece of paper and you, fold it and fold it and fold it and fold it really narrowly, and it'll do that, and they're this awful beige color. They're really ugly, and we had 8 of them when I was a kid. I think we've gotten rid of them all now because they're really ugly, but it would never have occurred to me that those were from a time period. They just always existed. Or the barrettes that the teenage girl wears in her hair. We have the same barrettes. My mom has them. They're in the bottom of the basket where we keep the hair things, because they're kind of too broken to wear, but not technically broken, so you can't throw them out. And it's crazy to me, because it would never have occurred to me. They always fell into this thing that wasn't new. It wasn't from while I was alive. But it wasn't old enough to be retro or vintage or actually old. They were just things that had always been, that had always existed. And now they're falling into place as a part of history, as a part of the chronology of the universe, and it just has been tripping me out a little bit. That's where I am on my journey of self-discovery right now, is learning that I exist within time. I hope that you enjoyed this trip into my insanity, and I will see you on